The Great Hall of Station Primarch was built to make visitors feel small. Its walls rose 300 meters high, carved from crystal that sang when light passed through it. 12 thrones sat in a half-circle at the center, each one designed for a different species. Each one older than human civilization itself. Admiral Doyen Park stood alone on the speaker's platform. He wore his dress uniform, dark blue with silver buttons, pressed and perfect. His hands were clasped behind his back. His face showed nothing. Around him, the representatives of 12 species watched with eyes and sensors and organs humans had no names for. The Veshans sat highest, their pale bodies wrapped in robes of woven light. The Keth delegation clicked their mandibles in what might have been amusement. The Varath observers recorded everything with their mechanical eyes. High Speaker Varath rose from his throne. He was ancient even by the CNL standards, his skin like paper stretched over bone. When he spoke, his voice filled the chamber without effort. The Galactic Council has deliberated for 7 cycles, Vorath announced. We have reviewed the evidence. We have heard the testimonies. We have reached our verdict. Doyen did not move. He had known this moment was coming for months. Every human in the galaxy had known. The species known as humanity has violated 17 articles of the Expansion Accord, Vorath continued. They have bred beyond permitted limits. They have spread to systems reserved for elder species. They have developed technologies without council approval. They have refused all requests to submit to population management. The Keth delegation clicked louder. The Varith leaned forward in their seats. Therefore, Varith said, the Galactic Council hereby declares a state of war against the human species. All human assets in council space are forfeit. All human citizens are ordered to surrender themselves for processing. All human vessels are to be seized or destroyed. Vorath sat down. The chamber fell silent. For a long moment, nothing happened. The delegates watched Doyen, waiting for the rage, the threats. The desperate bargaining that always came when younger species faced judgment. Doyen simply nodded. We accept, he said. His voice was calm, almost gentle. We will leave. He picked up the formal declaration tablet from the podium. He bowed once to the council, a gesture of respect that confused several delegates who had never seen a human bow before. Then he turned and walked toward the exit. Admiral Park, Vorath called out. You misunderstand. This is not a request for departure. This is a declaration of war. Your species will be brought to heel. Doyen stopped. He turned back, and for just a moment, something flickered across his face. It might have been sadness. It might have been pity. High Speaker, he said. Humanity has received your declaration. We choose not to contest it. We will withdraw from all council territories within 72 hours. We will honor all existing contracts. We will take only what belongs to us. You cannot simply leave, a Keth representative chittered. There are procedures, tribunals. Your people must answer for their crimes. Our crime, Doyen said quietly, was being useful to you. Our crime was building your stations and healing your sick and carrying your goods across the stars. Our crime was doing it so well that you forgot we were doing it at all. He smiled, and the expression held no warmth. You have declared war on us. Very well, but you cannot force us to fight. We will simply ... go. He left the chamber. The doors closed behind him with a sound like thunder. In the viewing gallery above, Counselor Yenishin watched him go. She had been born human, 60 years ago, on a colony world near the galactic rim. She had given up her citizenship at 22, believing that serving the Council was a higher calling. She had spent 4 decades proving her loyalty, distancing herself from her birth species, learning to think of humans as the Council did. Now, watching Doyen Park walk away with such terrible calm, she felt something she had not felt in decades, fear. She found High Speaker Vorath in his private chambers an hour later. He was celebrating with the other senior counselors, drinking fermented nectar from crystal cups. High Speaker, Yena said, I must speak with you about the human response. Vorath waved a thin hand. What is there to discuss? They have accepted their fate. The matter is closed. They have not accepted anything, Yenna said. They are leaving. There is a difference. Leaving is surrender, a Keth counselor said. They know they cannot defeat us. They flee like prey animals. Yenna shook her head. You do not understand humans. I grew up among them. When they fight, they are dangerous. When they run, they are defeated. But when they walk away calmly, when they smile and bow and wish you well. She paused, searching for words that would make them understand. That is when they are most dangerous of all. Voreth laughed. It was not a kind sound. Counselor Shin, your concern for your former species is noted. But you have spent too long among civilized peoples. You have forgotten how primitive humans truly are. They are clever animals, nothing more. Without our markets, our technology, our protection, they will wither and die in whatever dark corner of space they crawl to. And if they don't? Yenna asked. Then we will find them and finish what we started today. Yenna left the celebration. She walked to the observation deck, where great windows looked out on the endless dark. Already she could see human ships moving, hundreds of them, thousands, streaming away from Station Primarch toward the outer territories. They moved in perfect formation. No panic, no disorder. Just quiet, efficient departure. On the deck below, human workers were packing their tools. Human doctors were transferring patients to alien colleagues. Human engineers were completing final maintenance checks on systems they would never see again. One of them looked up and saw Yenna watching. He was young, maybe 30, with kind eyes and grease on his hands. He smiled at her and raised a hand in farewell. Then he picked up his toolbox and walked away. Yenna stood at the window for a long time, watching the exodus. She counted ships until she lost track. She watched stations go dark as human crews departed. She saw alien vessels scramble to intercept freighters that never tried to escape, that simply continued on their paths, calm and orderly, until they crossed the border into empty space and vanished. By morning, the humans were gone, and Yenna Shin, alone among all the council, understood that the war had already been lost. 6 months passed, and the galaxy held its breath. Captain Taiho Kim sat in the cargo hold of the Deshan trade vessel, Endless Grace, writing in a small notebook he kept hidden in his jacket. He was one of the few humans who had not left council space. His mother had been sick, too weak to travel, and he had stayed to care for her. She died 3 weeks after the exodus. Now he was trapped, a human in a galaxy that had declared war on his kind. The Deshens kept him because he was useful. He knew how to fix things they had forgotten how to repair. Entry 47, he wrote. The food shipment from Vareth 7 is delayed again. 3rd time this month. The Keth cargo handlers cannot figure out how to operate the loading systems. I watched them struggle for 6 hours with a machine I could have fixed in 20 minutes. They did not ask for my help. They would rather starve than ask a human for anything. He closed the notebook as footsteps approached. Humana, the Thessian officer said from the doorway. The secondary reactor is failing. You will repair it. Taiho stood. Yes, sir. He followed the officer through corridors that had once been bright and clean. Now dust gathered in corners. Lights flickered overhead. A strange smell hung in the air, something between rot and rust. The secondary reactor was a human design. Almost all reactors in council space were human designs. Humans had been building them for 100 years, quiet and uncomplaining, never asking for credit or recognition. Now, the reactors were dying, one by one, because no one else knew how they worked. Taiho opened the access panel and looked inside. He saw the problem immediately. A simple filter, clogged with debris. A 10-minute repair. How long? The officer demanded. Several hours, Taiho lied. Very complicated. He worked slowly, taking his time. He was not trying to sabotage anything. He was just tired. Tired of being useful to people who despised him. Tired of fixing things for masters who would kill him if they could find someone else to do his job. That night, he wrote in his notebook again. The council expected war. They built fleets. They fortified borders. They prepared for human aggression that never came. Now they do not know what to do. You cannot fight an enemy who has already left. You cannot defeat someone who refuses to play your game. He paused, thinking, I heard news today. The children's hospital on Varith 7 has run out of medicine. It is a drug that humans developed, humans manufactured. Humans shipped across the stars for free because we thought it was the right thing to do. Now human factories are silent. Human ships no longer fly. And children are dying because the council was too proud to say thank you. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out. On Station Primarch, the great crystal walls were growing dim. The light systems that made them sing had been maintained by human technicians for 2 centuries. No one had thought to learn how they worked. Now the crystals sat silent and dark. And the Thessians pretended not to notice. The Keth Consortium sent urgent messages to their shipyards. Their fleet raw and on human-designed jump drives, and the drives were failing. Keth engineers studied the technology for weeks, trying to understand it. They failed. The drives were too advanced, too elegant, too human. How did they build these? A Keth scientist demanded, staring at blueprints that made no sense to him. How did a species so young create something so complex? No one had an answer. The Varith coalition faced a different crisis. Their agricultural systems had been automated generations ago, designed and maintained by human engineers who asked only for fair wages and decent treatment. Now the systems were breaking down. Crops failed. Livestock died. Famine spread across worlds that had never known hunger. High Speaker Vorath received reports every day. Production down 30%. Trade networks collapsing. Diseases returning that had been cured decades ago. Find solutions, he ordered his advisors. Replicate their technology. Train our own engineers? His advisors tried. They failed. Human technology was not just advanced, it was different. Humans did not build things the way other species did. They built with intuition, with creativity, with a strange combination of logic and art that no one else could copy. Their machines worked not because they followed proper engineering principles, but because humans had found ways to make them work that no one else had imagined. Counselor Yenishin requested a meeting with the High Speaker. It took 3 weeks to get an appointment. We must open negotiations, she said. We must contact the humans and ask for help. Voreth's pale face twisted with disgust. We do not negotiate with criminals, and we will die, Yena said simply. Our economy is collapsing. Our technology is failing. Our people are suffering, and the humans have not fired a single shot. They are hiding, Vorath insisted, cowering in their quiet zone, hoping we will forget about them. When we are ready, we will find them and destroy them. And how will we find them? Yena asked. Our ships cannot enter the quiet zone. Our sensors cannot penetrate it. Our scouts do not return. And we will build better ships. Better sensors. With what engineers? What scientists? What workers? Vorath had no answer. He dismissed Yena from his chambers and refused to see her again. Taiho Kim finished his notebook 6 months after the Exodus. He filled the last page with a single observation. I understand now why the humans left so quietly. They knew this would happen. They knew the Council could not survive without them. They could have fought. They could have raged and threatened and made demands. Instead, they simply walked away and let the galaxy destroy itself. He looked out the window at the darkness between stars. Somewhere out there, they are building something new, something better. And we will never see it because we were too proud to admit that we needed them. He closed the notebook. The lights flickered overhead. And somewhere in the ship, another machine began to die. 1 year after the declaration, a message arrived from the quiet zone. It was not words. It was not demands. It was simply an invitation, transmitted on frequencies that Council technology should not have been able to receive. 3 observers would be permitted to enter human space. They would be shown the truth. They would return to tell the Council what they had seen. High Speaker Vorath wanted to refuse. He wanted to destroy the message and pretend it had never arrived. But the Council was desperate now. 12 months of slow collapse had broken their pride. They needed answers. They needed hope. So a small diplomatic vessel crossed the border into the quiet zone, carrying 3 passengers. Counselor Yenna Shin went because she had asked to go. A Theshan military officer named Vorith went because the council did not trust Yenna to report honestly. A Keth scientist named Chitter went because someone needed to evaluate human technology. The journey through the quiet zone took 7 days. Their sensors showed nothing. No stars, no planets, no signals of any kind. It was as if they were traveling through empty space, a void between galaxies. Then, on the 8th day, they emerged. Yenna Shin pressed her face against the viewport and forgot how to breathe. Before them hung a world that should not exist. It was green and blue and white, wrapped in clouds, orbited by 3 moons that glowed with city lights. Ships moved around it in streams of silver, thousands of vessels traveling in perfect harmony. Space stations circled like jewels on a necklace, each one larger than anything the council had ever built. "This is impossible," Vorith whispered. "This cannot be done in 1 year." But it had been done. And this was only the beginning. Director Gi Wuhan met them at the landing platform. She was a small woman, maybe 50 years old, with gray hair cut short and eyes that held no anger, no resentment, nothing but calm certainty. "Welcome to Bastion Prime," she said. "We're glad you came." She led them through the capital city. It was beautiful in a way that made Yenna want to cry. Towers of glass and steel rose toward artificial suns. Parks filled with trees from 100 worlds spread between buildings. Children played in fountains while their parents watched from benches. Chitter clicked, his scientific mind overwhelmed. "How did you build this?" "We have always been builders," Director Han said. "We built for you once. We built your stations and your ships and your medicines. We asked only for respect in return, and you gave us contempt." She stopped at a balcony overlooking the city. "When you declared war on us, something changed. For the first time in human history, we were united. Every nation, every colony, every faction that had ever disagreed about anything came together. We had a common enemy. We had a common purpose. And we had something to prove." She smiled, and the expression was not cruel, but it was not kind either. "No, you gave us the greatest gift imaginable. You gave us a reason to show what we could really do." The tour continued for 3 days. They saw hospitals that could cure diseases the council had never conquered. They saw factories that produced ships at rates that made no sense. Assembly lines running day and night with precision that bordered on art. They saw schools where human children learned sciences that Keth researchers could not understand. On the 2nd day, they met General Sung Ho Beek. He was a quiet man, older than Director Han. With a soldier's posture and a grandfather's face, he commanded the Human Defense Force from a room filled with holographic displays showing ship movements across 1,000 systems. "We do not want war," he told the observers. "We never wanted war. But we prepared for it anyway because we knew you would never let us live in peace." He gestured at the displays. "What you see here is the largest fleet in galactic history. 2,000 capital ships. 50,000 support vessels. 6 million soldiers trained and ready to fight." Vorith's face went pale. The entire Council Navy numbered perhaps 300 ships. They had thought themselves invincible. "We built this in 1 year," General Beek continued. "Imagine what we will build in 10, in 50, in 100. He turned to face them directly. "Go back to your council. Tell them what you have seen. Tell them that humanity is not hiding. We are not afraid. We have simply moved on. And if they come for us, if they try to finish what they started, we will be ready." The 3rd day, Director Han brought them to a memorial. It was a simple thing. A wall of black stone with names carved into it. Thousands of names. Tens of thousands. "These are the humans who died in council space," Director Han explained. "Workers who were abandoned, families who could not escape in time, children who starved because no one would help them." Yenna Shin read the names. Some were Korean like hers had been once. Park, Kim, Lee, Cho. Others came from 100 different cultures. 100 different histories, all united in death. We do not hate you, Director Han said softly. Hatred is exhausting, and we have better things to do with our energy. But we will never forget. And we will never trust you again. Observers returned to Council Space. Yenashin wrote a report describing everything she had seen. She described the cities and the ships and the technology that made the Council look like children playing with toys. She described the unity, the purpose, the quiet determination she had seen in every human face. High Speaker Vorath read the report. Then he ordered it sealed and classified. He told the Council that the observers had found nothing of concern, that humanity was struggling to survive in their exile, that victory was still assured. Yenashin tried to speak the truth. She was silenced. Vorath tried to warn his military commanders. He was reassigned to a distant outpost. Chitter published his scientific findings. His colleagues laughed at him and called him a human sympathizer. The Council continued as before, confident in their superiority. Certain that the young species they had cast out posed no real threat. They were wrong. They were so terribly wrong. 18 months after the declaration, Ambassador Mirkong arrived at Station Primarch. She came alone, in a small ship that moved through Council space without asking permission. Defense systems detected her. Warning signals were sent. Interceptors were launched. But the ship did not run, did not fight, did not hide. It simply continued on its path, calm and steady, until it docked at the great station's primary port. Ambassador Kong was 35 years old, tall and elegant, with black hair pulled back from a face that showed no fear. She walked through corridors where Veshan guards watched her with weapons drawn. She smiled at them politely, as if they were servants rather than soldiers. "I request an audience with the Galactic Council," she said. "I bring terms from humanity." High Speaker Vorath wanted to refuse. He wanted to arrest her, imprison her, make an example of her. But something stopped him. Perhaps it was curiosity. Perhaps it was the quiet voice in his mind that remembered Yenashin's warnings, that whispered of ships and cities and technologies beyond comprehension. The Council. Assembled Ambassador Kang stood on the speaker's platform where Admiral Park had stood 18 months before. She looked up at the 12 thrones, at the ancient species who had ruled this part of the galaxy for millennia, and she spoke without any trace of submission. "The Galactic Council declared war on humanity," she said. "We accepted your declaration. We departed your space. We honored every obligation, paid every debt, fulfilled every contract. And then we waited." She paused, letting her words settle. "We waited to see what you would do. Would you pursue us? Would you negotiate? Would you admit that perhaps you had made a mistake?" Her smile was thin and sharp. "You did none of these things. Instead, you let your economy collapse. You let your people suffer. You let children die from diseases we had cured. Let ships strand in ports we had built. Let worlds starve because you could not operate farms we had designed." The council chamber was silent. Even the Keth had stopped clicking. "We are not here to gloat," Ambassador Kong continued. "We are here to offer terms. Humanity does not need the council. We have built something better, something stronger, something that will last long after your empire is dust. But we are not monsters. We do not want to watch you destroy yourselves." She pulled a tablet from her coat and read from it. "These are our requirements. Full recognition of humanity as an independent sovereign power, equal in status to any council species. Formal apology for the declaration of war and the deaths it caused. Reparations to families of human citizens who were harmed, and dissolution of any council authority over human affairs, now and forever." High Speaker Varath rose from his throne. His ancient face twisted with rage. "You dare," he said. "You dare come here and make demands of us. We are the Galactic Council. We have ruled these stars for 10,000 years. You are children, insects. You will accept whatever mercy we choose to grant." Ambassador Kong did not flinch. "We hoped you would say that," she said softly. She tapped a button on her tablet for a moment. Nothing happened. Then, across the galaxy, lights began to go out. The Nexus had been humanity's gift to the galaxy. a communication network spanning thousands of light years, connecting every world to every other world. Humans had built it. Humans had maintained it. Humans had shared it freely, asking nothing in return except the gratitude that never came. Now, for the first time in 3 centuries, the Nexus went silent, not destroyed. Not damaged, simply ... closed. Human engineers in their exile had built new protocols, new locks, new gates. The network still existed. It still functioned. But now, it recognized authorized users and unauthorized users. The Council was not authorized. Station Primarch lost contact with its fleet. Military commanders could not reach their ships. Governors could not speak to their worlds. Banks could not process transactions. Ships could not navigate. 1,000 years of galactic civilization, connected by human technology, suddenly found itself alone in the dark. Yes. This is an act of war, Vorath screamed. You have attacked us. We have done nothing, Ambassador Kong said calmly. We have simply stopped giving you things for free. The Nexus belongs to us. We built it. We maintained it. We let you use it because we were kind, because we believed in cooperation, because we thought that if we were good enough, helpful enough, useful enough, you might eventually see us as equals. She shook her head sadly. You were wrong. You never saw us as equals. You saw us as servants, as tools, as clever animals who could build things you needed, but would never deserve respect. She turned to leave. The Nexus will remain closed until you accept our terms. Every day you refuse, more systems will fail. More worlds will go dark. More of your people will suffer. This is not a threat. This is simply what happens when you lose access to things you took for granted. She stopped at the door. You declared war on humanity. We have decided to let you experience what that really means. Not through violence. Not through invasion. Just through absence. Just through the quiet withdrawal of everything we gave you. The doors opened. When you are ready to negotiate, you know how to reach us. If you can still remember how to build a radio. She left the chamber. The Council sat in silence, surrounded by walls of crystal that no longer sang. In a station whose lights were beginning to flicker. In a galaxy that was slowly learning what it meant to be truly alone, High Speaker Vorath tried to speak. No words came. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, humanity continued to build. 2 years after the declaration of war, the Galactic Council ceased to exist. There was no final battle. No dramatic surrender. No moment of defeat that historians could point to and say, this is where it ended. The Council simply faded away, like a fire running out of fuel. Like a ship drifting without power into the endless dark, High Speaker Vorath died in the 6th month of the darkness. Some said it was illness. Others said it was despair. His body was found in his chambers, surrounded by reports he could no longer send, orders no one could receive. Pleas for help that echoed into silence. The Theshan Dominion, proud rulers of the Council for 10,000 years, fractured into 100 warring factions. Without the Nexus to connect them, without human technology to sustain them, their ancient civilization began to consume itself. Worlds that had been jewels of culture became battlegrounds. Libraries burned. Cities fell. Knowledge that had taken millennia to gather was lost in years. The Keth Consortium tried to rebuild on their own. They were clever, perhaps the cleverest of the Council's species. But cleverness without cooperation meant nothing. Their fleet remained stranded. Their factories stood empty. Their scientists spent years trying to reverse engineer technology they had once dismissed as primitive human work. They failed. The Varith Coalition surrendered first. They had no choice. Famine had killed millions. Disease had killed millions more. When a human medical ship appeared in their space, offering aid without conditions, the Varith wept with relief. They signed whatever treaties humanity offered. They did not care about pride anymore. They only cared about survival, one by one. The other species followed. Chancellor Yoonji Yoon stood at the podium of the First Galactic Forum. A new organization built on new principles. She was 60 years old, silver-haired, and soft-spoken, chosen by her people not because she was strong or fierce, but because she was kind. "We are not here to rule," she told the assembled delegates. "We are not here to take revenge. We are not here to punish anyone for crimes committed in darker times." She looked out at the faces watching her, Deshans and Keth and Varith and a dozen other species, all of them smaller now, humbled by years of suffering, desperate for something to believe in. "We are here to build something better, a galaxy where no species is master and no species is servant, where cooperation replaces domination, where we help each other not because we are forced to, but because it is right." She smiled, and there was genuine warmth in her expression. Humanity learned something important in our exile. We learned that we are stronger together. We learned that our greatest achievements came not from competition, but from unity. We want to share that lesson with you. Not as conquerors, not as rulers. As partners. The Galactic Forum was not perfect. Nothing built by imperfect beings ever could be. But it was fair in ways the Council had never been. It gave voice to small species and large ones equally. It shared technology freely, asking only that recipients use it for good. It built hospitals and schools and farms on worlds that had nearly died. Former Counselor Yenishin watched the ceremony from the gallery. She was old now, her hair white, her face lined with decades of regret. When the Forum voted to grant her honorary citizenship in the human cooperative sphere, she cried for the first time since she was a child. "I abandoned my people," she said to Chancellor Yoon afterward. "I thought I was rising above them. I was only betraying them." "It came back," the Chancellor replied gently. "That is what matters." Yenna spent her final years serving as humanity's liaison to displaced Council species. She helped refugees find new homes. She translated between cultures. She told anyone who would listen about the old days, about the mistakes that had been made, about the price of pride and the value of humility. She died at 93, surrounded by friends from a dozen species. In a garden on Bastion Prime where cherry blossoms fell like pink snow, Admiral Doyan Park did not attend the Galactic Forum. He had retired years ago. After the Nexus went dark and his work was done, he had built himself a small house on Earth, in the Korean highlands where his family had lived for generations. One summer day, his granddaughter found him in the garden. "Pruning roses, grandfather?" she asked. "What was the war like?" Doyen set down his shears. He sat on a bench and lifted the child onto his knee. "There was no war," he said. "But my teacher said there was." She said humanity fought the Galactic Council and won. Doyan smiled. He looked up at the sky, where ships from 100 worlds traced silver lines against the blue. "We did not fight," he said. "They declared war on us, and we simply chose not to attend." "I don't understand. Neither did they." He chuckled softly. "They thought power came from weapons and threats and the ability to destroy. They never understood that true power comes from being necessary, from being kind, from building things that others need but cannot build themselves." He pointed at a rose, red and perfect in the afternoon light. "This flower does not fight the weeds. It does not attack the bugs. It simply grows and blooms and becomes beautiful. And people take care of it because they want it to exist. Because the world is better with roses in it." The child frowned, trying to understand. "We were the roses," Doyen explained. "The Council was the weeds. They thought they could tear us out and throw us away. They did not realize that without us, the garden would die." He hugged his granddaughter close. "That is how you win, little one. Not by destroying your enemies, but by being so valuable, so essential, so loved, that destroying you would mean destroying themselves." Above them, a human ship broke through the clouds, heading for distant stars. It carried doctors and engineers and teachers, traveling to help rebuild worlds that had once despised their kind. The child waved at it. Doyen waved too, remembering the day he had walked out of the council chamber with a declaration of war in his pocket and a plan in his heart. "We won," he whispered, by refusing to play their game. "And now we get to write the rules." The ship vanished into the brightness of the sky. The the roses bloomed, and somewhere in the vast, healing galaxy, humanity continued to build.